So I want to talk Mother's Day, talking about picture frames and those things. How many love when everything just kind of lines up in a picture? When everything just goes right. A couple weeks ago, my brother was in town. I am one of 5 kids. I have 3 myself. My sister has 4. My other sister has 4. If you're doing the math, we're up to 11 right now. My youngest baby sister, who's 13 years younger than me, she was maybe the oops baby, I don't know. But she already has 2. So now we're up to 13. And then my brother came into town. He still lives in Nebraska, where I'm from. And guess how many kids he has? Bless his heart. 6. So, yeah, I know. I don't know. I told him how this happens and how it works. But, anyway, sorry. So what are we up to now? 13, 19 and counting. That we could be a TV show, 19 and counting. And we decided for my grandma, who is 80-something years old, she said, I want a picture of the whole family. So guess what we did? 19 plus all the parents, plus my parents. Imagine trying to get a picture. First of all, wide enough angle for all of it. And at some point, I told my brother, he took the picture, I said, just take 3 or 4 and just cut the face off of one picture if it's better and put it, you know what I'm talking about. Just Photoshop it as best you can, because we're going to get this 3 and done and be over with it. If somebody's picking their nose or crying, we'll just say, that was a good memory, right? So life, though, we know isn't always picture perfect, is it? Motherhood isn't always picture perfect. Parenting isn't always picture perfect. We would like it to be. We always want it to be. We look at other people's social media profiles and we go, if my kids just were as good as those kids, right? Even though we know they're not good kids either, they just took a good picture. That's all it is, right? Everybody has their things, their secrets, their world. And so I want to talk this morning maybe about the greatest, the GOAT, the greatest of all time mothers, Mary. And can I tell you just for a moment, her life wasn't picture perfect either. So I just want to share with you this morning 3 things, specifically to the moms in the room. But this is going to be applicable for everybody, because at some point, you either have a mom. Obviously, everybody in this room has a mom. You're going to be a mom one day, or you're praying to be, or you're a spiritual parent. We have a lot of that going on too as well, that you could be a mom to somebody who needs one in their life. And so it's been such a blessing. So I just want to share 3 things out of this. And I gave Renee, I kind of threw her a loop here at the end, because I'm going to go out of order a little bit. But here's what I love about Mary. First of all, she was just a normal person. She was just a young girl, actually, deciding to say yes to Jesus. To God at the moment. Jesus was about to be her kid. But I want to jump real quick to Luke chapter 2. Let's start here, verse 52. And the first point, it's going to say number 2 up there, because when I'm going backwards, I'm doing point number 1 as point number 3. I just felt like I needed to switch them up for the sake of this morning. You'll see why here in a minute. But point number 1 that says point number 2 is this: a guiding heart. This is what God has asked all of us to have, but this is what Mary had. So in Luke chapter 2, I don't even have the numbers up there. See? Go back to that one. Guiding heart. Yeah, see, I did it on purpose. I knew what was going to happen this morning. So this is point number 1. If I wouldn't have said anything, you wouldn't have even known. It would have just been an inside joke between the 2 of us. We would have known, and you would have yelled at me later. So that, I can't believe you did this to me. So here we go. A guiding heart. Luke chapter 2, verse 52. It says this: and Jesus, everybody say Jesus, increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and with men. Can I tell you for a moment, this doesn't just happen. Kids don't just grow up and become good people. How many know that you don't have to teach a kid how to say the word no? You don't have to teach a kid how to grow up and say the word mine. And if you have kids, you've probably seen Finding Nemo with those little birds that keep saying mine, 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 mine. Sometimes I felt like that's the house I was living in when my kids were young. That's all they did all the time. It's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. Yes, and I go, no, it's mine. And then I take it away from them. Now nobody gets it. And now how much fun are we having here? These things don't just happen. These things don't just happen. Yes, Jesus was fully God. Let's not mistake that this morning, but he also is fully human. He was raised in a home, he was taught scripture, he was modeled prayer, guided through life. And here's the part, I think we like that he's fully human because he's relatable, he can relate with us, but we really like the deed of Jesus, that he was perfect and he saved us. But we forget that he probably was sick a few days. Just because he was sinless didn't mean everything was perfect. It didn't mean that he grew up without sickness, that he didn't grow up without some of the same feelings that we have. He might have had a crush on a girl at one point. I can't believe I just said that out loud. I'm putting that out on YouTube at some point, right? I mean, but he probably stubbed his toe and maybe wanted to say a bad word, whatever those were in Hebrew back then. Jesus, he was fully human. He had emotions. How else could he relate fully with us when Hebrews 4 says that we have such a high priest who was tempted and tried in every way that we were? He was fully human. We know that at the time Jesus was 12. We'll get into this in a little bit. But he said this. He was at the temple talking with the different priests, and Mary and Joseph were going back to their town, and they were looking for him for 2 days. Can you imagine? I would kill my kid. Like, you know what you did to me? You know how you made me feel? Like, I can't believe you did this. He wasn't perfect in that sense. He was sinless, but he was still very much human. And sometimes we forget that, and that's why God said, I need a mom in your life. I need somebody who can help you, to teach you, to raise you. Spiritual formation is a parental responsibility. A lot of times culture wants to outsource discipleship, though. We would rather just like we do with the public school system or anything else, and I'm not knocking it, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying we want to outsource all of these things. But can I tell you, spiritually speaking, our formation, our kids' formation, our grandkids' formation is our responsibility. Think about the kind of influence other kids, the school system, think about the government, think about all those things, how much influence they have over your kid's life. They might be spending more time with your kids than you are. And again, I'm not knocking, I'm just saying if we're not intentional about it, but the moment that they get home from school or the moment our grandkids are around, if we're not intentional about this, time will slip by and pretty soon we realize we didn't form them at all. YouTube did, TV did, streaming did, this app did, this other person did, these friends did. And as for me and my house, I'm not just going to say we're going to serve the Lord. I'm going to be intentional and walking and say, I'm going to make sure that we're doing things this way. He's 18, he's about to leave the house. Now it's on you, son. Go live your life, have a blast, Yeah, woo, awesome. But I've done my part. I've tried my best. I'm not perfect. My wife is definitely not perfect. I said that too strongly, didn't I? I shouldn't have said it that way. Don't tell her. What happens in this room stays in this room this morning. She's not going to go watch it, Camille. You know that. But here's the reality, though. Sometimes parents expect, sometimes I do even as well. We expect the church or the school or podcasts or pastors or whoever to raise our kids spiritually. But the primary discipleship responsibility and assignment was given to you, Mom, given to you, Dad. When I say mom this morning, I hope you understand and realize, again, if it's not for you in this moment, it will be for you someday. And the same with guys in the room. We're going to be parents one day. And so I want to blanket it for everybody. I don't want to just keep anybody out here. Can I tell you, though, I have health insurance, as I should. I pay way too much for it, as we all do, I'm sure. And get very little back in return. I'm probably going to switch over to major medical at some point. You know way too much about me this morning. That's okay. But how many know we pay a lot for a lot of things? I'm just ready for gas to get down under 4 gallons again. I'll sit in line at Sam's or Costco to make sure I get that good gas price. But we pay a lot for it, and it's our primary health insurance. And then I had a phone call the other day from an agent from Aflac. You know those commercials, Aflac. You get that little duck that runs around or whatever it is, Aflac. And they said, what we are is we're a supplemental insurance company. And so your insurance provider, they'll pay the 80-20 policy or whatever it is, but you still have co-pays. You still have out-of-pocket expenses. How many love out-of-pocket expenses? When you stand there at the counter, they're like, okay, it's going to be $150. Yeah, none of us like it. And so Aflac comes in and they say, we'll help cover some of those out-of-pocket expenses. We'll cover your co-pays. Fill out this piece of paper, send it in, and we'll send you a check for whatever amount. That's a great deal, except for I don't want to pay another insurance provider. But here's my point this morning. Here's my point, is that the church is Aflac. We're supplemental. We're not your primary health care provider. You are. Early on when I was a youth pastor, I was scared to tell parents that because I wanted them to like me and make sure it's okay. But I'm older and more mature now and I really don't care. Like, it's your responsibility, parent, to raise your kids. It's your responsibility. The church is supplementary. It's necessary. It's important. You need to show up. They need to be raised in this. They need to have godly friends that they can find at church. But I'm telling you right now, it's your responsibility. You are the primary healthcare provider. Spiritual formation is a parental responsibility. You don't hand your child to the church once a week and expect spiritual maturity to magically happen. And it didn't happen for Jesus either. I promise you, Mary was intentional. We don't know a lot about his younger life, but we do know from that verse, he grew in wisdom, he grew in stature, he grew in favor with God and favor with men. Why? Because Mary said, I'm going to do this right. Not perfect, but I'm going to try. Children grow where they're guided. And healthy growth requires guidance. And can I tell you just for a moment, I know Mary's home helped shape the earthly life of Jesus, but there's oftentimes, and I say this a lot, but there is often more caught than taught in parenting. We can say the right things, but they see our life. If anybody sees our life, if anybody knows that parents aren't perfect, it's their children, right? How many of your children know that you're not perfect? How many of you ever lost your cool with your kids before? You didn't mean to, but it just happened because they're so much like you that they know your buttons and they push their buttons and you're just like, you just lose it. And that's what we do. And then I don't know if my parents ever apologized to me, but I have apologized to my kids before, and so has my wife. I am so sorry I was out of line. But you just said it, and it was at the wrong time, right? Wrong place, wrong time, all those things. These things happen. But Mary shaped this home more as caught than taught, and I remember as a kid, because mothers do, I think, shape worlds quietly. I remember as a kid walking up many mornings, half asleep, groggy, just like my son does most mornings. You know that half asleep walk where your hair's all everywhere it shouldn't be and your eyes don't quite focus right, but you're just going to get that bowl of cereal to get some energy for the day. And I remember most mornings walking into the kitchen across from the living room, seeing my mom kneel at the couch in prayer. I don't know what she was praying for. Probably me. I was a mess. I was one of 5, but I'm sure most of her prayers were for me. God bless this boy. Help him. Knock some sense into him, right? But now as a husband to a great mom, my kids wake up most mornings and guess what they see? My wife on her knees in prayer, praying for them. More is caught than taught. Those things I remember so deeply and so strongly. And I'm not trying to say if you don't do that, you're a bad mom or a bad dad or a bad aunt. I'm just saying, like, they see, they watch, they know. And there's a lot more that's caught than taught. And so a mother has a guiding heart. A mother also has a pointing heart. This is one of my favorite passages in all of Scripture. John, I say that a lot, don't I? Every passage is my favorite. John chapter 2, verse 1 through 5. There's a wedding in Cana. This is the very first miracle that Jesus ever did. And so they're having this ceremony. All the disciples were invited. Jesus was invited. Obviously, Mary knew the couple or knew the mom of the bride or the groom or somebody. She was involved. And she takes notice that the wine is gone. And this was a bad day for them because this can't happen. We need to make sure that especially the guest of honor. I don't know why the bride and groom aren't the guest of honor, but back in the day they'd have a guest of honor at the wedding. They're like, this can't be happening. It's gone. It reminds me of, well, I won't share that story. Never mind. Why is the Rome gone? They have no wine, is what she said. I'm just a mess up here, aren't I, today? They have no wine. And so this is what she tells the servants. It says this: when the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to Jesus, to him, that's Jesus, they have no more wine. And look at Jesus' response. Only Jesus is allowed to say this to his mom. I'm just telling you right now, don't do it. It's a bad move. But he goes, woman, don't do it. Husbands, don't ever say that to your wife either. I'm just telling you, only Jesus can get away with this. Woman, why do you involve me? What business is this of mine? He replied, my hour has not yet come. And then I love what Mary says next. Do we have it up there? His mother said to the servant. She just ignored Jesus completely. He said, woman, what business is this of mine? And she's just like, whatever, Jesus. Whatever he tells you to do, go do it. Right? That's what she says. Do whatever he tells you to do. I mean, that's a good mom, isn't it? Like, I know he's capable. I know he's ready. I know he's able. Like, just do it. I think that might be the best parenting statement in all of Scripture. That you can point your kids to Jesus and say, do whatever he tells you to do. In my humble but accurate opinion, I believe that might be the best parenting statement. Whatever his word says. Pick up a Bible. If you want answers, son, daughter, do what Jesus tells you to do. I might not get it right all the time. I'm trying. But if you follow him, you're not going to go wrong. If you do what Jesus tells you to do, Mary's always pointing people to Jesus. She's always pointing people to Jesus. She didn't point people to herself. She could have. Look at me. I'm Mary. I'm the mother of Jesus. It's because of me. It's because of what I did. But we don't see any of that from her. Not her wisdom, her sacrifice, her motherhood, her reputation. I mean, she had all of those things, yes. But she pointed them to Jesus. And great mothers do the same. The goal is not raising children who admire you most. The goal is raising children who follow Jesus. And then I love what Mary did as well. She pushed Jesus towards purpose. He had not done any miracle yet. He wasn't in ministry yet. He didn't move forward in any of that yet. But Mary was the gentle nudge that said, it's time. Jesus, you're 30. Get out of my house. You know what I mean? I'm joking, but it's time. And good parents, good people, they nudge other people to purpose. And this is more than a parenting statement. Good friends nudge people to purpose. Quit doing what you're doing. It's time for you to get going with life. Nudge somebody to purpose this week. Nudge somebody to their God-given dream this week. People have talents and abilities. People have things, God-given gifts and purpose in their life, and we need to be good people that see past all of the flaws and faults of our kids, our co-workers, our siblings, and say, look, I see more in you than just flaws and faults. I see purpose. Let me help you nudge. Let me nudge you to that purpose. Because sometimes the greatest legacy is direction, and sometimes the best thing a parent can say is follow him. Follow him. So there's a guiding heart, a pointing heart, and then let's jump back up to point number 1, a pierced heart. Luke chapter 2, verse 34 through 35, Jesus was dedicated a temple. And Simeon, he was a prophet who stayed at the temple most days, and he gave this prophecy. He's holding Jesus, and then look at what he said to them. Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, this child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed. And then look at this last phrase. It's just kind of like an add-on at the end. Like, thanks for that, Simeon. That's what I'm sure Joseph was livid. Like, that's what my wife needed to hear right now in this moment. But look what it says. And a sword will pierce your own soul too. That's a good way to start this parenting thing, isn't it? Jesus is 8 days old. That's when they would go to dedicate him in the temple, to make sure he's circumcised, to make sure all these things happen. So at 8 days old, he can't hardly function. He can't walk. He can't talk. He's completely as vulnerable as ever God was in that moment is Jesus. And Simeon made this statement, there's going to be a sword that will pierce your soul. Before ministry, before miracles, before the cross, Mary was warned that loving Jesus, that parenting would hurt. Mary said yes to a plan that was not hers. I mean, God completely interrupted her life. I imagine that Mary had dreams. She had dreams of getting married to Joseph. She had dreams of building a life together, having a house, having a family, maybe staying close to parents and grandparents so all the kids and cousins can run around. I'm sure Mary had a dream that her husband would be a great carpenter, that his name would be revered in all of Galilee, and all the land, that she would be somebody. And all of a sudden, this angel shows up out of nowhere and says, listen, Mary, you're going to have God's son. And it's going to be really hard. He didn't tell her this, and she didn't know any of this at the time. Her response was, be it unto me according to thy word. That was her response. She said yes before she ever understood the cost. Before she ever understood that I am going to be pregnant out of wedlock, and that the neighborhood, the people, they're going to talk. And it's going to be difficult, and I'm going to have to go live with my cousin Elizabeth for a while. And then, I didn't know this, but I'm going to have to go to Bethlehem while I'm 8-9 months pregnant because of a census. And then after that, Herod's going to try to kill the baby. So we're actually going to have to go live in Egypt for a while. And it's away from everything that I knew. Where's my mom in all of this? She didn't even come and help with the labor and delivery. How many know a good mom in the room? Even when you're a mom, you still need your mom some days. Anybody else with me? Like, this is what we need. She said yes before she fully understood the cost. But it asked everything of her. And sometimes parenting asks everything of us. Real faith says yes before it understands the cost. And parenting often means carrying what you must eventually release. Mary carried Jesus physically, emotionally, spiritually, but she could never possess him. And this is the tension in parenting and motherhood. We hold tightly while preparing to let go. And it's where we're at right now. I haven't experienced it. Some of you in the room have experienced it before. I haven't yet. My son, he got a phone call a couple weeks ago, and it was to be an intern at Camp Jackson this summer, which is the Assemblies of God campground, and to go and be. And they don't always give it to kids right out of high school. It's not always an opportunity that they get. But he called and he said, do you think you would be okay? Actually, he said, do you think your wife would be okay letting him go this summer? And I was like, this was our last summer before he goes to college. What does that look like? What does that mean? I mean, we need him here in like 2 weeks. What? 2 weeks. Short notice. Some of you know the pain that I'm talking about. You know the experience. And I'm ready. There are days where I'm like, he knows this. We talk about it. There are days I'm like, get out of my house. Go live your life. You're a man. And then there are other days I'm like, never leave. Stay with me forever. Don't go. I remember when you were that kid. I remember all the cuts and scrapes and bruises and stitches and every doctor. I don't know why I was the one that went to every doctor's thing with him. Every ER visit. It was me. And I don't do well with blood. You know, I'll sit there staring. He's got one here. He's got one here. This was Christmas Eve, and my parent, like, Christmas Eve, you're really going to do this to me, son? He's like 3 years old, fell onto the coffee table, split his face open. He's got one here, a pew in church, you know, all the things back here. He's trying to do a backflip off the pool, not off the diving board, just the side of the pool. He came up to knocked on the door. He's like, Mom, my head hurts. I hit my head. And she's like, you're fine. And then he turned around and there's like blood all the way down his back. You know, no, you're not fine. Call that, you know. And I remember being in the ER, and especially when he was a real little kid, and he's just staring at me as they literally sometimes would have to wrap him in this sheet because he would just like move everywhere and they needed him to be still. And he's looking at me with those eyes, like, you're killing me with those eyes, son. But this is what's best. The doctor needs to do this, you know. I remember, many of you, you know, you remember in this room all of these moments. Moms, you hold tight to all of them. But you also know that if I don't let him go into everything that God's called him to do, if I don't let my daughters go into everything that God called, I can't hold them back. They were mine for a moment to train, to raise up, to give away to what God had. That's why we dedicate them to him, because they're not ours, they're on loan. We're like surrogates. And sometimes the greatest act of love is releasing what you carried into everything that God has for them. There's no greater joy that I would have than my kids serving and living for God the rest of their life. And can I tell you just for a moment, this is kind of a weird thought, but even Jesus pierced Mary's heart in all of this, not intentionally, and obviously he's sinless, but look at this. At 12 years old, we talked about this. He made this statement once they found him, and she's like, you know what you did to me? We've been looking for you for 2 days, and this is what he said. Didn't you know I was supposed to be about my Father's business? And that pierced Joseph's heart too, because he's not actually biologically his father. But you're my kid. But I had you for a different purpose. And parenting sometimes means giving that away. She's realizing that he's my son, but he belongs to another. And then later in ministry, Jesus is preaching and teaching and healing people. And one of the disciples comes up to him and says, hey, Jesus, your mother's here. Your brothers are here. And Jesus makes this statement. Who's my mother? Who are my brothers? Ouch. What are you talking about? And he goes on to say, anyone who does the work of the Father is mine. He's shifting the relationship here, that this is like we could be the family of Christ. Some of you have family far away and you're missing them, and we could be family today. But I'm telling you, that had to hurt though. She knew it was for more. It was bigger than her. But it doesn't mean that her soul wasn't pierced. Wasn't dishonoring her. He was redefining family. And then the cross, my goodness, she was there. It makes it very clear that she was there. No mother imagines raising a son for execution. No parent's supposed to bury their kid. I've had to do a couple funerals. One I remember so vividly. This young man in our youth ministry was a day away from turning 17. And the mom came and asked me if I'd do the funeral. I have as many questions as you do. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. This isn't the way God intended it. Death came into this world and I don't understand it. I'm broken just like you are. Didn't get to graduate high school. What? That's not the way it's supposed to be. Mary sitting at the cross going, I don't get it. He was supposed to be the Savior of the world, and he's hanging naked, bruised, barely recognizable on this cross. The nails, the mockery, the suffering. The same arms she once wrapped in swaddling clothes were now stretched out on a cross. And this pierced heart might have reached its deepest wound at Calvary, but she stayed. Some people leave when pain comes, but moms stay. Right? That old joke, you got a face only a mother could love. It's a joke, but it's so true because moms are unconditional in their love. But Mary teaches us that loving Jesus sometimes will break your heart. Loving your kids will sometimes break your heart, but you do it anyway. You love anyway. You give anyway. You share anyway. You point them to Jesus anyway. You point them to Jesus anyway. Can you bow your heads with me just for a moment?